Just give me a second here. Okay, testing, testing, one, two, three. Do you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, everyone. Hello. Today is November 24th, 2019. We're almost near the tail end of the year. And I'm here tonight with our guests, Memo and Dominion and Lancer.
What's
And
up, y'all?
what's up, guys? Yo.
Yeah, how's it going?
So first things first, I just want to make sure everyone understand. I got a bit of a cold, or most likely a flu. So if you excuse me if I have to leave, I'll let Memo do most of the talking while I'm taking care of my cold. Um, the first things first, Memo. Quick question. There was recent news about a certain situation with Andy Muschietti. Now, can you elaborate what actually occurred? Like, is he still on the Robotech live action movie project, or what happened? Like, what's going on?
Right. Let me. It's gonna take a while to talk about this. Hopefully I could have a lot of time. Uh, we were talking about what do you call it, Andy Muschietti, for the last couple of months now, through the fandom about Andy Muschietti picking up a bunch of projects on the side, which was the Flash, and Flash was being one of them. Attack on Titans was second one. Uh, Time Machine, another one, and look like it's pretty good, right? He's gonna come back and do Robotech after uh, two, but from early on when he picked up the project, notice that he lags a lot. He takes a long time to do his how do you say it, his promotional and work. He actually takes all the way almost like a month before the movie comes out, and I had second thoughts about him. I always like his portrayal of it, but that's the only thing I have of her horror movies. But what do you call it? After the movie came out, he started doing interviews where he's second guessing Robotech. He's second guessing the fandom popularity. He's second guessing uh, money wise that it is not gonna. They're not gonna pay him a lot. He figures, all right, I did it one, it two, I can make a lot of money. You know, and then one of he says, I know I could probably raise the value or raise the cost of what the project's going to take. In other words, his sister gets a production value, and as well as him as a director gets a production value. And that's when I started noticing, like, oh shoot, he's about to screw Harmony Gold, Sony, and everybody involved with the Robotech, because everybody in Robotech is waiting for Muschietti to finish and then jump on Robotech, right? They're giving him a space. Harmony Gold's promoting his name, and his sister as well, Barbara Muschietti, as parts of the projects. You know, producer of the project and director of the project. So that's a win-win and money right there. But what do you call it? I guess Flash was gonna come out, and I guess Warner Brothers saying, "Yeah, you know what? We got a lot of money here. A script, we're ready to go. Um, don't worry about the past producers or the past writers or whatever, because Flash ran into problems. But we're willing to give you we're willing to give you money to jump on Flash." But one of the things I said back then was, Muschietti is about to hang himself if he's willing to play this, what do you call it, let's make a deal type of thing. You know, you agree to all this, you do all this, and everybody's just waiting to say, okay, cool, you like the script, you like this, you like that. Then go ahead, do your It movie too, and then come back to us, and we'll finish and jump on Robotech. But it didn't turn out that way. And earlier on in the what do you call it? Later in the year, that's when I said he's about to hang himself, because Sony is not the type. I think I remember talking in this show, right? I said, dude, you fuck with Sony and start playing games, you might be on the out. you might be just actually, instead of trying to gain a little bit more, you might actually just push yourself out, because the way it worked with Andy Muschietti with James Wan, he got delayed. Warner Brothers stopped the project. Aquaman. He was filming Aquaman. He was like, "Boom! I'm gonna do Aquaman and jump on my other projects and jump on Robotech. Oh, I can't wait!" And what does Warner Brothers do? They stop Aquaman. We don't know how long. Nobody knew how long. James Wan didn't know how long. After Justice League's what do you call it fell apart, and it was one of the suckiest movies ever. You see, it just brought everything else around it down. They're like, uh, James Wan had to call. James Wan had to get back with Sony and say, "You guys, it's gonna take longer than I think." Sony, what did they say? Thank you very much. We'll go to our second director, right? We'll go to our second director, which is one of I think he was chosen a long time ago. His name popped up, Andy Muschietti, and sure enough, Andy Muschietti is brought in, shown around Sony, wherever at Harmony Gold, showing pictures, the script, everything's going on, everything's going fine. He's there loving Robotech, doing Robotech interviews. Oh yeah, Robotech. I loved it when I was a kid and everything. I had no problem with it. I love it. I grew up with it, and now comes now that I finished it too, and all these projects are coming out. He's like trying to, and his comments are coming out in the open about wanting more money. And Sony just basically said, and this is what I was saying, not Sony. This is what I was saying. I was saying, you start messing around with Sony, you start messing around with the people who are behind the production. They're gonna do what they did to James Wan. Well, bye bye. See you later. We don't play games. We want this movie done. We're just waiting on you, Andy Muschietti. And if now you're showing second thoughts or whatever, you should have told us that in the beginning, because we could have had this movie started filming back in last year, in 20. When did it started filming?
The first one or the
It
second one?
started this year, but all the production started last year,
Yeah.
and and that's one of the things that we were all waiting. Like, all right, he says he's gonna finish it too, then jump on Robotech. But things change, and what do you call it? And what sure enough that I was right on the fact that once this director started messing around with Sony's what do you call it, and Harmony Gold and all that, on trying to figure out what he's gonna do next, and maybe like saying maybe if you guys could raise a deal, start changing the deal, start changing the game. Sony just probably said, you know what, you're out of here. And we have learned finally through last week event and GamaCon in Mexico. Luckily, I went. I wasn't gonna go to the event. I was planning to go to a what do you call it, the Monday night Charger game in Mexico City, but my son's passing kind of threw everything under the bus. I had to like concentrate more on him passing away, and the funeral services and all that. I couldn't afford, or I couldn't look into buying going to Mexico City for the uh, Mexico and Chargers and Chiefs game, and at the same time be with my wife down there. I told my wife, you know what? Then let's go to the Mexicali event, and last minute we decided to go, and luckily I did, because by recording that video or by watching that presentation, there was no mention, nothing of Barbara Muschietti as a producer, like she has been before, and no mention of Andy Muschietti as director, as we have seen with James Wan when James Wan dropped out. Um, and that, what do you call it, brings back to us guys, because in a way, I like Andy Muschietti, because the way he portrayed it the first It movie, the way his characters come out and develop, I feel like he's like James Wan. He could do some good character build up there. But his comments, even it too, but his comments about uh, 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 popularity, if Robotech is not popular as it was once was, and that's one of the things I'm against because a director doesn't pick a movie on popularity. I mean, yeah, the producers will put something out there because it's popular, but it's up to the director to make a great movie. You know, it's up to the director to put everything together. It might fall apart. There might be some how do you say it, disputes, but none of that was going into making this movie. It was all kind of flimsy with Andy Muschietti getting all these projects, and in a way, it opens up the window to all right, who's going to be the new director? Now that Harmony Gold or Tommy Yoon did not present nothing of Andy of the Muschietis on their projects of or being part of the project, then of course this opens up the window to okay, does that mean he's gone? I think he's gone. I think Sony once he got the whiff of what there's problems with Andy Muschietti, they just says you know what, boom, you're out. I don't see him coming back. I don't see him being part of this project. He could say he loved Robotech as much as he can, but once he started making those comments, asking for more money uh, as a director, at the most, and as her sister as a producer, then they're probably trying to see more on the IP side. You guys still there, right? Trez
Yeah,
joined.
yeah. Trez is here.
Oh, hey, how's it going, Trez?
Welcome, Trez. Oh,
How
by the way,
about
happy
you?
birthday, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, happy birthday, man.
Oh, happy birthday, man. Oh, somebody got the nickel in. But what do you call it? So Trez, we're just talking about Andy Muschietti and Barbara Muschietti not being in the presentation in the Mexico um, panel, Robotech panel, or
I
how many?
saw that.
And that happened with James Wan, and I'm trying to bring up what happened and the idea behind it because now since Andy Muschietti and Barbara Muschietti, well, Andy Muschietti, and I'll put the blame on Barbara Muschietti as well. That what do you call it? They think the project is not what do you call it, popular, and I'm saying is the director's job to make a good movie, not to make it because of popularism, you know.
She actually
And
said that?
that's why I'm saying from an interview came from Andy Muschietti of an interview, and what do you call it? Until I hear it from him, I want to believe it, but I think a lot of this stuff is coming around because now since they're not in the project, I think like I said, we said before, I think we said in the show, if something goes to trouble, Sony doesn't play, and they probably just dump them out. And what do you call it? They're gonna probably be looking for a new director.
Well, they
And
just
that,
lost a boatload of money this recently with a big flop, so they got to be looking to make something.
who lost a lot of money?
I think it was the new Charlie's Angels movies
Yeah,
was a Sony make.
you're correct.
Mm.
Yeah, they lost a ton of money on that. And the thing is,
Ton of money.
they went on. Was it Blake? Was it Blake? Who was it that directed that movie? Was that?
The Charlie's Angels?
Yeah, it was
Oh, that was what's her name?
former actress.
Banks.
Yeah,
Yeah, Elizabeth
Banks.
Banks. It was like a passion project for her.
yeah.
I like the first one. I didn't know nothing about the second one. I know they announced Charlie's Angels, but when I saw it, I was like, it ain't. It's not like it's not gonna be like the first one, you know.
This is the third one.
Yeah, it's the third one.
Damn, I missed the second one.
Well, you didn't miss anything.
No, you didn't.
First two were bad. This one was destined to be bad.
You guys didn't like the first one? I thought it was okay, but not something big. It was just kind of like tips came out and whatever. But I didn't even know there was I thought this was the second one. Oh, the third one. But that shows you how much bad it is. But that's one of the things with Sony. It's if they can't get a director on it or something happens, they'll switch right away. But I hope it switched to the good, not to the bad. You know what I mean? To the point where, all right, now we're back to who would be a good director out there for Robotech at this time? Who would be open? You know, the only names that were mentioned was another guy, and I forgot his, but that was through Warner Brothers. Um, he did a Mexican movie. Shoot, I forgot his name, but he was under the Warner Brothers thing coming along.
Is
But
he
yeah,
is he currently a Hollywood director or just a Mexican director?
I don't. He's not a big Hollywood director, but I think he did. I saw one of his movies where a bunch of illegals were trying to come from El Salvador across to Mexico and come to the U.S. That was a long time ago. He was an alien.
I'm starting to think that we're not going to get our movie.
No, don't say that. Don't say that.
Well, it's not that we're not gonna get our movie. It's like these guys got to pick a director that's free, basically.
Yeah, but this is going to be what, the third or fourth one that they've gone through?
Sony's only second one. Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
Warner Brothers didn't even have a director. They were going rewrites and rewrites.
No,
They
no.
They
Warner
had
Brothers had
Nick
Matthew.
Matthew.
Matthew,
Yeah,
yep.
at one point.
Yep, they did.
I mean, he makes a mean commercial, but I don't know about a big budget project.
He did a movie on Netflix called what's it called? It's currently on Netflix right now. Oh, Nick Matthew, what they did? Spectral.
Spectral.
Yeah,
Right, Spectral. Yeah. Nick Matthew open? That's another thing.
He is. He is actually. He's been
Nick Matthew.
Yes, he is. I think he's available.
Nick Matthew. James Wan. He's currently he's filming right now. Malignant. I think I said it right. Malignant. But after that, there's rumors that he's not. I'm hearing that he doesn't want to do Aquaman 2 after what happened with Aquaman 1. He doesn't want to get stuck on something and later on be stuck on. You know, he's more comfortable with his horror movies, which he's done, I think, like 3 of them since Aquaman. Aquaman 2 is just keep getting pushed back. I don't know what the new tie-in with this reboot of Superman and all these guys. I don't think he wants part of it. He's until Warner Brothers figures out what they're gonna do with their DC line. I don't think there's gonna be an Aquaman 2.
But Aquaman
did him directing Aquaman 2.
Yeah, but didn't Aquaman warranted $1 billion in grosses worldwide and domestic was $1 billion.
Yeah, Aquaman did very well.
It did very well.
Yeah, he had the formula as a single movie, as a origin movie. But I think there might be problems with Warner Brothers, how they want to tie in to DC, and I don't know if he's liking that idea. You know what I'm saying? Like you're high over here with Aquaman, but DC is dragging everything down, and they want him to go down to that abyss and put things together. And I don't think James Wan wants to say that. He wants to go in there, film something, and get the hell out. But which leaves them open for Robotech, but he's still stuck with this movie that he's doing. And what do you call it? WB is in talks of making not Aquaman 2, but what do you call it? The bad guys one, the ones where
Suicide Squad.
No, where Aquaman had to go into the abyss. Remember, Aquaman had to go into the abyss, and I think the creation of the three what do you call it? Species.
Oh, the Justice League movie, the whatchamacallit, the one with Steppenwolf.
No, not Steppenwolf. Remember Aquaman had to go get his
He had to get his mom and the trident from the
The
trench.
trench?
the trench. He wants to do the trench one. The story behind the trench.
Why?
The trench
Oh, how they
wars and all
became
that.
trenchers.
Why?
Yeah.
Okay, I have no clue what this is. So
Why?
He wants to
don't
do an
know.
origin story for the creatures of the trench or how that happened.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
He wants to do that. He
Why?
wants to do that. He doesn't want to do the Aquaman, continue Aquaman into the WB side. I mean WB DC universe side.
Again, why?
He thinks there's something there.
No, there isn't. Why?
Well, maybe it's something tied to his horror movie ties, film ties from like The Conjuring. Maybe he wants to make it a little bit darker.
I
Like
mean, clearly from Aquaman, that part of the movie was his favorite part of the movie because he had all the horror aspects of the things climbing over the boats, them diving into the darkness with the flare, so you can see him swimming in the background. Like
And
that
that
was
warrants a movie?
well,
that's apparently
An Aquaman Dark, I could see it do very well. It'd do very well if they did a dark side where it's like they made it like a horror. Yeah, for sure.
Let's
So
not get
an
it twisted.
origin,
The whole reason why Aquaman did well, at least I would say for 25% of the audience, let's not get it twisted. It was Jason Momoa. They couldn't
yes,
care less
this is
about the
true,
story.
and
It was
I will
Jason
say
Momoa. The 75% that is left cared about Aquaman, but the 25%, it was Jason Momoa. So let's not get it twisted. If they
I will say that if he wants to do a Aquaman Dark with crossover with Constantine with what's his name, Neo, I'd go to see the hell out of that movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you mean Dr. Fate and all that whole storyline?
No, just actual Constantine. Constantine's in the. They did a Batman Constantine crossover animated recently.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see it. An Aquaman Constantine like haunted 20,000 leagues under the sea or something crazy and right up his alley. I'd go see it.
Oh, if it's DC.
Maybe something to do with Blackbeard's treasure.
They find the Black Pearl.
Stop. Stop.
Bring him in. Bring in the Depp.
Anyway, besides James Wan, is there any other director that you also had in mind, Memo, regards to that could probably pull off?
we talked about Neil Blomkamp just because of his makeup back in the day. Geo Blomkamp's whereabouts. I thought he was in Africa. You say he's in Canada?
Yeah, he's in British Columbia, Canada. Yeah, Vancouver, I believe. Yes, last I read.
And I think he's pretty good with makeup. I mean, Chappie was okay. For me, it was a Netflix movie. I don't know if it came out in theaters. I remember just seeing it in Netflix, and I said, okay, this looked like a B movie from England. I think it was filmed in England. And just a robot running around, kind of like a futuristic of what do you call it? Short Circuit, the movie Short Circuit with number 5.
Yeah,
That's what Chappie felt to me. Chappie felt like, okay, it's an English version of Short Circuit, but I like the way they make a move. And later on, once I saw who the director was, I'm like, oh, I think he almost did Robotech or wanted to do Robotech or something like that. But then I remember it was just our chats, right, that we said he would be a good one, considering he did Elysium.
Yep.
Yeah, he almost did Halo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
he was.
they wanted him for Halo, but the studios wouldn't go for it, so they made District 9 and Elysium and a couple other movies to kind of show that he could do it, and nothing ever came from it.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, what happened was that he was originally assigned to do the Halo movie project, and because there was limited budget when they canceled, there was a little bit of budget left that was left in terms of the development aspect of it. They decided to turn it into an original movie. So District 9 is actually based on concepts from Halo.
Yeah, that's why some of the aliens look like flood creatures, and some of the guns look like Halo guns.
Exactly.
He wears powered armor at one point.
Yeah.
And what I like about District 9 is just the spaceship and the mecha around it,
And if you look at Elysium too, Elysium had some pretty good concept ideas when it came to like space and the realism of space and dystopia and the tech level that they had there. and it was kind of interesting.
And it was also a low budget movie, right? I think it looked like almost low budget.
Uh,
Film in
they were
Africa, I
all
think.
within reasonable budgets, yeah, and if Sony could pull something like that and get somebody like Neil Blomkamp, and the
What I
thing,
like about those two movies is it's very futuristic and it's very realistic. Spectral is almost the same way as well.
yeah,
Director Spectral could do it. Nick, well, now I know. Yeah, we know that Nick, not
Matthew,
Nick, Neil Blomkamp could
yeah,
do it. And that's what brings us to one of the things when somebody asked them in chat. Thanks to the guys out there in Robotech World, a lot of fans who brings up a lot of information to the forefront. What do you call it? Somebody asked him what he would do next or something like that on Twitter, and he responded, he loves Robotech. And I was like, oh damn, that's interesting. But now that Andy Muschietti, I think Andy Muschietti is out. I don't know if he's gonna come back. That could lead into something. But as a fan, I went in there, tried to tell him, hey man, Andy Muschietti's out. I think he's out. Get your guys to get Harmony Gold guys and see what happens, right? As fans. Andy Muschietti, James Wan,
Nick Matthew.
Nick Matthew is a great possibility. Now, I didn't even think about Nick Matthew. I don't know what he's up to or what he's doing. And Neil Blomkamp, I was trying to look at what do you call it? He was supposed to do this other movie, Prometheus, right? And then, but they got Cameron back to do Prometheus. Something happened where he got pushed out, and he had a lot of stuff to make that movie, but everything got pushed out, and then instead Cameron did it himself, and I don't know where Prometheus went with that whole religious thing.
I think Cameron was attached to the project all along. They just somewhere along the way they lost faith in the project and they pushed Cameron into the role. Something must have happened.
Yeah,
Somebody didn't like the script or didn't test well with audiences or something.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that I didn't like about what do you call it, Prometheus. It was all too much into the religion, the beginners of what became Earth. The way how they tied it in.
Yeah, I have a question. Isn't Star Wars the Return of the what is this? The new Star Wars movie? What's it called?
The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, isn't that director done now with the Rise of Skywalker? Isn't he done with that now? He's going to be available.
What, JJ?
Not J. Not it's not.
JJ's on as a producer. He's on as a producer, but
No,
I know who you're
director.
talking about.
Yeah,
I hear
The
they keep
director
doing
of Rise of
reshoots, so I don't think they're
Skywalker is
done.
JJ.
J.J. Abrams.
No.
He directed The Rise of Skywalker. He directed the first and the third.
Yeah, they brought him back
Think
after
of
the
Ryan
last one
Johnson.
cratered.
Yeah,
He was the second one.
Yeah, Ryan
if you're
Johnson,
thinking of him.
yeah, but didn't Ryan Johnson also work a bit on the third one?
No.
Or
Ryan Johnson
or
had
they
nothing
took
to
him
do with the
halfway
third
out
one.
of it.
No, you're thinking of the director of Godzilla, who was doing the third movie. The director of Godzilla, the newest version, was on board for what is now Rise of Skywalker, but they took him out before even the very first one, which was Force Awakens, even started.
Okay.
So
Ryan Johnson was lined up to do his own Star Wars trilogy until the fiasco.
Yeah, that's now up in the air. No one has any confirmation on that yet.
Oh, that's not happening. Like, there's no way.
Oh,
It's done.
How about the two guys from
Solo?
No, not Hunger Games. The other one, Game of Thrones.
Oh, DB Weiss and
they're out.
Yeah, they're out too. They're doing Mandalorian. They're doing stuff with Mandalorian.
Oh, I was gonna ask you if they're open for Robotech, but I guess not. They're busy with Mandalorian.
I wouldn't want them for Robotech. After the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones, no thanks.
Oh, what? You don't want more nudity?
There's one shower scene. That's all we need.
I'll just tell you, what do you call it? I never seen Game of Thrones, so I'm one of the guys. nah, I don't got HBO. I ain't gonna pay HBO. I'm happy with Netflix. And now I had to buy Disney because of Mandalorian. So that's about the unless Game of Thrones comes out in Mandalorian, then I'll watch
I think we're just
it.
kind
I mean,
of
Game of Thrones comes out on Disney, then I'll watch it. But for directors, it's back to and googling who's gonna talk to direct Robotech again. I
well,
mean,
that comment from Neil Blomkamp saying he still likes Robotech, and considering how District 9 was a very good movie. I love that movie. I still, even though it's 10 years old now, because it came out
Mr.
in,
Dragon and Elysium, those are two good movies that I like.
yeah, and he
I like
directed both
Elysium.
of them. So I wouldn't mind if he got locked in as a director. Yeah, I would be happy. I would say, finally, District 9 fans and Elysium fans will be able to get something that they would share with not just people from, because a lot of Halo fans got into District 9 because they knew it was supposed to be, actually a lot of the concepts and ideas that was to be in the original Halo movie, right? So to
Right.
have that kind of fandom saying, "Hey, it's Neil Blomkamp, he's doing Robotech," it's kind of like Halo, you know. Why not?
I like him as a director. I'd love him more for the new generation than for Macross.
Oh, the dirty
Yeah,
post-apocalyptic. Yeah,
down on the ground, but dirty survival, but with humor, and that's kind of what District 9 was.
yeah.
He definitely has that down.
What about that movie with Tom Cruise about him being stuck in a time loop in order to correct an attack with a alien invasion? What was it called?
Edge of Tomorrow,
Edge of Tomorrow. Who was the director for that one?
or All You Need Is Kill, or
Yeah,
Live, Die, Repeat.
yeah,
15 different titles.
yeah. Who was the director for that
Let
one?
me walk over to my shelf and take it off the shelf and tell you who directed it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look. I gotta do an
Well,
IMDb here.
it's gonna be a while before we hear a director. Can't wait to see what happens. Who decides to jump in there? Uh, Andy Muschietti was not my least favorite. Um, what do you call it? James Wan was my favorite just because I figured he would be the one more into the whole Macross thing, um, and start the whole fandom with that. But it never happened. So right now, I don't know. We're just wait and see because everything's ready, and they did announce. Surprisingly, they did announce the writers still being on board. So I suspect there's gonna probably be some rewrites just to take out some stuff that Andy Muschietti probably put in there, some of his ideas or concept, because that's what usually happens. He'll start off with a and rough draft, and pass it on to the writers and go from there. But it looks like some of the stuff might be taken out that he had to do with. So as long Andy, what do you call it, Andy? Jason Fuchs from Wonder Woman is still on it. I'm happy. That means they still believe in that writer. They still believe on what do you call it, on his script, and it's all about having the new director come in and then saying, looking at the script and saying, all right, cool, we'll go with this, or we'll change this. How about if we add this, and start going into pre-production. Right now it's in development, but going straight into pre-production and see what
Okay,
happens.
I have a question for you, Memo. Do you think it should be compulsory to be a fan of the TV series in order to direct this movie, or do you want someone outside of the fandom, like who's completely unknown, like doesn't know anything about Robotech, to direct? Because like that's what they did with Joker. Joker was like I think was it like some people that were involved with Joker, they weren't they weren't the fans of the source material. They took their
Right.
own interpretation of
But then you run into a problem when I saw a little older version of the Joker and a little kid. What do you call it? Damn, what's his name? Batman.
Who,
Shoot.
Michael Keaton?
No, not Michael Keaton. The character, the little kid who plays Batman, Wayne, Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
They saw a young Bruce Wayne because if young Bruce Wayne becomes his 30s or 35 when he becomes Batman, that Joker's gonna be like 60, dude, on a
yeah,
wheelchair.
yeah. He would be. Yeah.
When I saw that, I'm like, oh, there's not gonna be a Batman in this movie,
Well, there is a
you know?
sequel coming. Believe it or
Yeah,
not.
but
Talking about it.
I'm
Well,
but I don't think it's gonna be Batman involved in it, unless
but
you
here's,
make a teenage Batman type of thing where he's 17 and he's out there being Batman.
Well, it may not actually include Batman, but like we know that Dio Blomkamp is a Macross slash Robotech fan, right? He's a fan of the genre of anime, and he brought all those ideas when he developed and put those into like District 9 and Elysium and Chappie, like, and you see how he did it. He has an understanding of how to turn stuff that was made from anime and put it into something that feels real. Like I never felt a more realistic mecha um, film than District 9. I really, or even Elysium. Like to me, that's kind of like the pinnacle of realism. Like if you were to build a mech and you want to do it realistic, those two movies portrayed it quite well. Now, do you think that is a prerequisite for a director of his caliber to be an actual director for a Robotech live action movie? Because like
Um,
personally, I don't see anyone else.
how about Battle Angel Alita? Um, that's something
beautiful
that's very
movie.
close to the source material.
Beautiful
Uh,
movie.
huh?
Beautiful movie.
You know what I mean? What do you call it? Yeah, I could see Neil Blomkamp's way, which is makes it realism with a mecha, but at the same time, I see Battle Angel Alita and say, "Oh, damn, this is a good movie." Um, to where can they both? Can Robotech survive in either way? Would it be too anime like or too um, how do you say it?
Animated as CG.
Or mechanical like Neil Blomkamp movies. That's about the only what do you call it? Good mecha movies that I've seen other than Robot Jocks.
Stop. You are not allowed to utter that movie ever again. But hey, you know what? To answer your question though, Mav, look at Michael Bay. He did not know anything about Transformers, and look what we got. So I would much rather have somebody who knows the franchise than someone who does not, because then you
That's
get
true.
that horrible transformations that they did with Transformers. But then, of course, they retconned it with Bumblebee, and those transformations were actually pretty decent. So, I would much rather have that transformation. And then going back to what they were doing with Battle Angel and stuff, I would much rather have somebody who, knew what they were doing, had the CG at least truer to the anime than not. Because if you get somebody who's not part of, doesn't know the franchise, doesn't know the story, doesn't know the mecha, you're gonna get, you get what you pay for. And as much as I loved the very first Transformers movie, I still didn't like the CG of how they transformed the actual mecha. So, you know, six of one, half a dozen the other.
Uh, I I agree with the point that he made that maybe these things should be more like living creatures. I don't like the result of that thought process. I would have gone a different way, but I mean these aren't your only options on the board. If I were Sony, I'd be looking to raid the Marvel Studios catalog. You've got Taika Waititi, you got Joe Johnston, you got Joss Whedon, you got Anthony Russo, James Gunn, Peyton Reed. There's a whole bunch of guys who have made solid movies that have put butts in seats that were entertaining. John Watts, Scott Derrickson, even Ryan Coogler. He did Black Panther. That was a decent movie.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
but
lots
don't
of
you
people
think?
out there besides just Blomkamp
True.
who could knock this out. Clint Eastwood while you're shooting for the stars. That would be my choice, but
Get off my lawn. I mean, plane. I mean,
we'll call it Letters to the SDF-1. There you go.
Well, we know that when did Sony acquire the rights for the live action movie? How long ago was that? Like they have another 2 years, correct? Before they
They,
expire.
I think it's a 4-year plan type of thing deal.
Okay.
It's like every 4 years you get the chance to renew, or every 2 years. I'm not sure.
It probably goes through 2021
Yeah.
because that was when the old rights expiration was. I can't remember if they did the movie deal before or after. I think they did it before they renewed. Of course, they renewed this stuff like a year before they told us about it. Just throws everything off.
So, but I think Sony had it when they were hoping James Wan jumps on it. But he was stuck with Aquaman. Then they went with one of the choices they had, who was a fan of Robotech, Andy Muschietti. And they said, okay, we'll wait on Andy Muschietti and it too. And we see how that turned out. So, yeah, it's going to be. I believe there's a lot of directors, as long as it's not like Speed Racer.
I like Speed Racer.
Yeah, Speed Racer was a great movie.
Thank you, Trez.
Oh man, it was just a Hot Wheels movie, man.
I would not want
the
the Wachowski brothers to make Robotech, but I will say that Speed Racer is probably the most accurate translation of an anime into a big budget movie that we'll ever see.
Thank you.
It was just a Hot Wheels movie to me.
They spent millions of dollars faithfully recreating the stupid corner cutting flashing backgrounds that they did, back in the 60s. We're too lazy to actually paint a background behind the car and make it cycle, so we're just going to do a bunch of flashy stuff. They're like, oh, we'll spend millions of dollars and recreate that in 3D.
Wasn't it one episode?
Go for it.
That had to do with a circus?
What's
I
up?
think that's what it was. A Speed Racer episode of the circus. Speed on a tightrope and all that. I wonder if that's what it was. Maybe they would call it a Speed Racer and something circus, and I'm like, okay, I get it. But it was more like Hot Wheels, just running around a track instead of running around open land.
They did a little bit of both.
Yeah, but it was more, like I said, it was more in like a closed area, kind of like Alita. But let's see, Michael Bay. You say Michael Bay? If Michael Bay is announced, I'd be laughing.
Michael Bay's too busy in Washington D.C. directing the impeachment of the president. Every day I hear about a new bomb going off, or Endgame, or an explosive reveal. I'm like, Jesus Christ!
Wait a minute,
I want to see this movie.
Is he directing something?
No, it's a joke.
No.
Hey, Michael Bay did what nobody wanted to do, was a Transformers movie. I give him props for that.
You know what? Transformers helped quite a bit in terms of breaking the robot genre, because there was for a while there they thought before Transformers came out, they thought it was going to be just like another Robojocks, right? It wasn't.
Right.
But what's kind of funny is like we look at Iron Man for example with Robert Downey Jr. Back in, that came out 2007?
2008.
2008.
2008. Okay. So remember back then, everyone was saying, "Oh, why are they making a movie about a man in a tin suit?" Because like the best portrayal of Iron Man, I think back then was just a couple of cartoons that didn't really portray him well back in the 90s and 80s. It was like kind of clunky. And
there was a Steel movie, but that's probably not in the plus
Really?
column.
Yeah.
Really? The Shaq movie?
No,
Seriously?
but what
Wow.
what they did back then was they were able to make Iron Man actually cool, like really cool. When I saw that movie, it's still considered one of my favorite Marvel movies.
Well, and it actually fit the Marvel aesthetic. Marvel is the world that's outside your window, whereas DC is kind of the the Paragon characters. You know,
Yeah,
Also, the
they brought it down
technology.
to earth.
Also, the technology caught up to Iron Man.
yeah,
Because
they
remember,
did.
in the comic books, you had, came out what? Iron Man came out in the late '60s.
Yeah,
So you're crippled by what technology was in the '60s. It's now 2018, 2019, 2008. So in the last 10 years, 11 years, technology has caught up to the concept of Iron Man. So that's why Iron Man worked.
that's why I believe Neil Blomkamp might be perfect for it because I think he has an idea of how to develop the visualization for a Robotech movie to the point where you would believe it would actually exist. And that's what I would like to see. But story wise, I don't know. I think if you could follow the vision of Jason Fuchs in terms of the writing, like if you could put that on the screen with his visuals, and forget about the dirty world, like just imagine, it's slightly rustic because it took 10 years to build this thing, to build the SDF-1. So the way I see it,
Technically, still weren't done with it.
yeah, and we still weren't done with it, obviously, because of the misfold, right? So I'm thinking, like, you build the interiors, and some of those interiors probably haven't been unchanged because remember, the Zentradi has barely, like they probably didn't change much of the interiors when the Zentradi left the ship, right? So that ship is probably like 50 or 1,000 years old. You don't know. So I'm thinking, excuse me, I'm thinking that maybe it's a good idea to have Neil Blomkamp doing it, but he has to follow the vision of the writer and his
Well,
vision, like kind
let
of work
me
together on it.
let me throw another idea out there, an interesting one I just thought of. Um, Move Blomkamp to New Generation, like I said earlier, and bring in Joseph, what's his name, Joseph Kosinski, to direct Macross. He did Tron Legacy, he did Oblivion, and he's doing a new Top Gun Maverick movie.
That Maverick movie is amazing. The
It looks
trailer,
awesome.
On the
yes.
video right now. Yeah, I saw the second video
No
that came out today.
CGI. No
So he could
CGI.
do just a straight lateral move into Robotech. just keep on keeping on.
Well,
Circle the aircraft carrier around again. We got to get some more B-roll.
is there any influence from a like is there any influence of Robotech in the Oblivion movie? Like, do you see any something there that says like there's some like influences?
Oh yeah, Oblivion. You haven't seen Oblivion?
I've seen it, but
Yeah,
it's
there's
been so
there's
long.
a big space station like AI alien enemy thing. Mostly Oblivion. It's the cinematic achievements. Like they built the set. The house that he lives in is
Yeah.
is actually an entirely practical set, and all of the exteriors were done with LED screens. It's not green screened, so all of the reflections are actually accurate on the set. It's really interesting. I saw
It
making of
probably
the other day.
helps. It probably helps with the when they do the 3D rendering to have the lighting match the set when they do the
Yeah,
C.
they can
Yeah,
actually the newest thing that they're doing now is you put the character on the stage, and the computer will track where the camera's eye is, and it'll actually change the background around the character. So like the lighting on the person is perfect to the background that he's in, and the perspective stays the same as the camera tracks. Really cool stuff. But Oblivion and also Tron Legacy, they had a giant, battleship looking thing in there. So I mean, he's touched the stuff at least. Something that is of a similar scope to Robotech.
true. Hey
What
Memo,
about what do you call it, Valerian? I just saw
yeah,
Valerian on Netflix. That was a pretty good movie. Remind me almost Tronish, but I don't know who the director
Oh,
of
that's
Valerian is.
what is that? That's the guy who did Fifth Element.
yeah.
Ah,
That might work.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that might work.
I didn't know that.
I mean, he could probably do it, but that would be a much more quirky Robotech than I think we're used to. That seems to be his thing. What's his name?
Dante says Luc Besson.
Luc
Luc
Besson.
Besson. Luc
Luc
Besson.
Besson. Yeah, I believe he's a.
Hi Dante. Dante's on chat, so he's following us. So by the way, I got the YouTube what do you call it video going on my pad. So
Okay, cool. Now,
Valerian was really good. I really liked it. I didn't see it in the movie theaters. It didn't appeal to me, but like I said, when it comes to Netflix, I turn on Netflix, see what movie's coming out. Valerian's on there, and I'm like, all right, I'll check it out. I'm like, oh damn, I guess it would have been good to see it in movie theaters. What do you call it? For some reason, I'm busy or whatever. I don't have time. Uh,
would
and I just jump out.
would you guys take a chance in having a foreign director, like say the one with who did the it's on Netflix right now. I think it's called Shanghai Fortress.
I wouldn't mind.
I was gonna say Neil Blomkamp is a foreign director.
Well, no,
Taika
well, yes,
Waititi.
true, true. But now he's a Canadian, so
James Wan is a foreign director.
James Wan's a foreign director.
no, but like the one from China, the one that I don't know if you guys seen the Shanghai Fortress on Netflix.
I seen a couple of Chinese futuristic kind of movies.
Yeah, the Wandering Planet's one of them.
The Wandering Planet is the other one, or the Wandering Earth, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's another good one, but it's heavily CG. It distracted me. It reminded me of Guillermo del Toro's one with a giant robot,
Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim 2. It reminded me a lot of that. A lot of CG in there.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah. But like I said, I wanted more close to what Neil Blomkamp can do with like live mech being around compared to CG Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim. But then again, you see what do you call it? A James Wan Tronish Aquaman. I really liked it.
Or you could just do Joseph Kosinski, who actually did Tron.
And who's the other director from Battlefield LA? I love that movie. I love Battlefield LA. I don't whatever anybody thinks. It just
Battle LA.
Battle LA was awesome.
It was a great movie.
And I said that would be good in ground scenes.
That's
but I can see with
Jonathan Liebsman.
I don't know if he's available either. So that's another guy right there.
Let's see.
Guillermo del Toro for Robotech. For a while, I thought he was gonna be part of it when Warner Brothers had it, but they kind of canned Robotech and they did Pacific Rim. I don't know if he says, "Oh yeah, giant robots fighting what do you call it, aliens." Let's change the story a bit. Let's call it giant robots fighting monsters from another universe. And Pacific Rim was born. So
Jonathan Liebsman did Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. He did Battle LA. He did Wrath of the Titans and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I'm sure is his crowning achievement.
Wow.
Oh man, he's actually went downhill instead of uphill. But I didn't see Clash of the Titans, so I can't comment on that
one. He also did 2 episodes of the Sarah Connor Chronicles, so no counting for taste. But I mean, the last thing he's credited is 2016, so I don't know what he's been up to.
Yeah, Dante, we've been talking about Neil Blomkamp like forever, but because so far he's the only one who's produced a lot of mech movies compared to anybody out there.
Like I said, I don't know that it has to be a specifically mecha thing. I mean, that's pretty niche to begin with.
It has to be mecha. It's like doing a Speed Racer movie without the Mach 5.
They had the Mach 5 in the Speed Racer movie.
Yeah, but I mean Robotech.
I was always thinking that the way the technology level right now is heading. It's like, and shows like The Expanse and The Mandalorian is kind of proving that you could probably have like a nice live action TV show, like a TV series, instead of a feature film. If you could get the fan base to follow you there, then maybe that might be more profitable. I don't know.
Well, if they did a live action television show of Robotech, you'd have to put a lot of money behind it. But I don't think that there's a big enough outcry for one for it to be feasible. Unfortunately,
I'm just wondering because of you got Disney Plus. They're trying to really push the online streaming and be competitive with Netflix.
That's the new thing I learned today. You get the Netflix and chill, and it's Disney Plus and Thrust.
Yeah. Yep. No, but I'm no, but in all sense, seriously, like like what do you guys think? Like, do you think we're seeing like the end of like feature films? Like, do you think in 5, 10 years it wouldn't matter if you watch something on the movie when you can get the same kind of quality of like story and quality of like the CGI on TV?
no, because you're gonna have there's too much. There's always gonna be the movies because that's the big screen. That's what everybody wants to aspire to be. And they were saying the same thing when television first came out back in the 50s. And that was supposed to be the quote unquote golden age of television and stuff. Everyone aspires to be on the big screen of a theater. And there's nothing like the audience of 200 people in a theater watching the fandom. I mean, Endgame when it came out. Oh hell, let's just go back. Go back to the very first Avengers. When I first saw that, the electricity in the air when that first shot of the Avengers when they're circling the six members, that was just beautiful. You can't there's nothing that can compare to that. You don't get that goosebumps at home. I mean, you
Yeah.
can, but it's just by yourself. But then you can geek out with 200 other people who like it just as much as you do. I mean, despite what everyone says about Star Wars and Episode 8 and how much you love or hate it, the fandom when they go out to see number 9, the nostalgia, the little kid in you, the grown-up anticipation of 43 years being culminated into the final movie is gonna be insane. And everyone's gonna be either teary-eyed or goosebumped or just geeking out of their minds to see episode 9, regardless if you liked 8 or not. And you can't duplicate that by watching it at home on a streaming service. You just can't. And the effects that you can get on the big screen because you're spending over $150 million on craziness to light up your eye holes, you can't duplicate that on the small screen because not everybody has a 4K television or soon to be 8K television. Not everybody has that. So, you can get that in a theater that is just the atmosphere is just, incomparable.
Is it okay if I share my ideas of how I do it and I could save the whole thing? I have an idea in my head. I've had it for
Let me
years.
let me answer your previous question first. I'll say that um, I think technology wise, what we're seeing is we're at the point where passion, the tech gap has closed to the point where a really passionate crew on a TV show can beat a really expensive crew on a big budget television, a big budget movie. You can have the guys who are making The Expanse and they're loving every minute of it and they're putting their whole heart and soul into it and they're staying late
Exactly.
and their wives are divorcing them, to get this show made and make it look amazing. And you have a big budget TV, big budget movie like pick one like was it the CG on the DC Justice League movie, which looked like garbage, because they're just collecting a paycheck and they don't really care. They know that the people who are making this are making it by committee. They don't really care, right? That culture, can't help but seep down to all of the other employees.
Well,
There's plenty of shows that are 20, 30 years old that have special effects that hold up and look better than stuff that we have